Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money, money not know what you conniving, money. Money never, money, money, money. You can keep your conniving money. When you've been up for a bum, in a bill tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bill tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money not know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker, neighbor, neighbor, joker, neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. This is all the money that me walk. I said money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. I don't want you conniving money. Oh, Joseph.
Planning a party? Worry no more. We have all the supplies you need. At EC Party Rentals, we have folding chairs, folding tables, square tables, round tables, long tables, short tables, big tables. We have chairs, red chairs, gold chairs, white chairs, crystal chairs, chairs of all type. Throne chairs. What you want, we have. Food warmers, coolers, ice, beverages. At EC Party Rentals, we have what you need to have a good time. You plan the party, we do the work. Call us 622-5933. Easy Party Rentals. Let's keep your party going.
Arriving in the UK from Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, or elsewhere. Start your journey with ease and comfort by choosing first-class travel service, one of UK's leading providers of premium airport transfers. Enjoy a smooth, stress-free arrival by booking your comfortable and reliable airport taxi before you arrive. With affordable rates and exceptional service, we cover all major UK airports, in the UK from Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, or elsewhere. Start your journey with ease and comfort by choosing first-class travel service, one of UK's leading providers of premium airport transfers. Enjoy a smooth, stress-free arrival by booking your comfortable and reliable airport taxi before you arrive. With affordable rates and exceptional service, we cover all major UK airports, including Heathrow, Gatwick, Manchester, Birmingham, and many more. Wherever you land, we guarantee a seamless door-to-door experience to and from any UK airport. For your peace of mind, all our drivers are fully DBS checked and cleared, ensuring a safe and trustworthy service from the moment you arrive. Our friendly staff will meet and greet you in the airport arrival hall, assist with your luggage, and escort you to one of our luxurious vehicles. So wait no longer. We're ready to look after you from the moment you arrive in the UK. You can contact us via email info@firstclasstravelservice.co.uk, office phone +4 4195 2287 176, WhatsApp +4 479 136 0576 5 or +4 479 009 50171, or simply fill in our request, a quote form, at www.firstclasstravelservice.co.uk. Travel with confidence. Travel first class.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Tom's TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruption over land and sea, where the wicked politicians they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see. Sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, which has ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, they got Breakford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam. Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London. Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Paslow, poor people governor. Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson. Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Quinton Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop located in the East Ramvelt Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168. T&W Harris Butcher Shop for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more.
Children
Hello. Hi. Good morning. How are you? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is 7 hours 30 and it is the 9th day of July in the year 2026. 3 days before I get a little older, or 3 days before I confirm a year older. Right? Yes, it's my birth week. I'll know must be giving Lucille Amsterdam pains. I'll know. Knowing the kind of person I am as an adult, I could imagine the kind of person I was when I been in belly. Oh God, must the purple struggle with my belly ache. All kind of pain she must be getting, but oh God, I must be the proper kicking, you know. But I still kicking, thank God I still kicking. I'm alive and kicking. How you doing? How was it yesterday? How was it last night? How you feeling this morning? What do you have to disclose? Do you have anything to disclose this morning? Or are you being retroprosical this morning? Yeah. Give on to Caesar what is Caesar's. Are you giving on to Caesar what is Caesar's? Or you just taking? They got a lot of tech people around the society, you know. Everybody want tech. You got a set of dunces in government taking your resources, and you taking the abuses, you taking the oppression. You know, they got a set of people in this society taking advantage, and you're allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. So there's a question. You got anything to disclose this morning? Or to be retrospective, anyhow, to engage in reciprocity. You want to be reciprocal to the people who have been doing all kinds of things. I hope you want to be reciprocal. Well, big up to all the dances over the PPP. It's anyhow, I just catch myself. It's Thursday. I don't go on a rant. It's Thursday. It's Mr. Jordan's day. Share the life. Yeah, I share the life. Listen, yesterday tell y'all send some money for me, man. Nobody send no money for me. Oh, y'all let's be so. It's mountain, you know. It's the 9th day of July. Y'all didn't send no money. Y'all didn't help me pay no bills. Y'all, you know, oh, y'all let's be so, man. Black man have always come and beg at you for something. You mean all the value you get out of this program? Yeah. All the information you get out of this program, all the entertainment, all the relaxation, all the benefits you get from this program, you are still tight. Yeah. You are still tight, man. This thing got upkeep, especially that you see this weekend is my birthday. Yeah, send some money for my man. Like a good relaxing time, no man. It's only stressing with y'all. I'm stressing with y'all and stressing for y'all. And I'm stressing about y'all. What happened? Yeah? Why do I always have to come here and they're telling you support the program, send something. Send something, man. The thing ain't running for mud. Are you really like people beg at you, but me not the begging type. I will not suffer. I will not beg for bread. No, that's not me lot. I'm begging for bread. I will not beg for bread, but I'm going to encourage you to support the program and play your part. Right? A lot of you expect people like Kidaki Amsterdam to go there and fight the fight day in, day out. Fight the fight day in, day out. Confront poor governance and control, confront oppression and confront this and confront that. And yeah, Mr. Amsterdam is a real champion. Mr. Amsterdam is a true liar. Let me call you Dr. Amsterdam. Yeah, I want to fill up me with stupidness. But Dr. Amsterdam. The Cash App information is $KAMSTV. $KAMSTV. That's the handle for the Cash App. It's right there on the screen. $KAMSTV. Tell me when you send it so I go check and see the email said that you sent a $500 for me and thing. Here's the mood of the day. I want big money this morning. Because it's yeah, I just saw an advertisement. Come to Panama. I say, if I had the kind of money, I could have just book a flight and go to Panama for the weekend, right? That should be a good relaxing thing. So at least I can leave my phones home and nobody can call me 10 and 12 o'clock in the night to tell me that kind of thing. Anyways. Y'all send us up them, man. Send us up. Like a good weekend with them children, especially. Most times I ask y'all for anything wrong is them, it's them children, This weekend I'm hoping to host us a number of them, get them some sweet treats and some back to school packages. Right? Some back to school packages. I'm going to see what I can put together from what I have and so on and so forth. That's how I usually, over the years, that's how I spent my birthday. Giving to the children, having fun with the children. The seesaw is already outside, so I know they between now and Sunday I gotta set up the trampoline and the bouncy castle, and I intend putting out this stereo set and boom down the neighborhood and all of that. I want the children to have a fun time. That is what gladdens my heart. Yeah, it's only since I start this social media thing with you guys. Every now and again, I try to celebrate a big milestone. Like when I turned 50, I had a big birthday celebration then. And so I guess you must have got to wait till I turn 60 for another celebration like that. Ordinarily, I rather give to the children. Right? But anyways, I said, Mr. Jordan, time is 23 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. Let me call Mr. Jordan. I gotta give you respect where respect is due. And so I encourage y'all to engage in some reciprocity. I give in time and I give in energy and I give in encouragement and I give a whole lot of people business advice and guidance and mentorship and all kind of thing. What? Y'all celebrate me for once now. Give me something this weekend. Let me have a fun time. However I choose to have a fun time, it's me business. Y'all just give me something. That's all I'm asking. Right? Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan, thereby. Is there any integrity at the Integrity Commission according to this cartoon? The art of disclosure: see no ranch, declare no ranch. See no ranch, declare no ranch. Just a simple declaration, man. It's not no big deal. Declarations only, not our job to verify. Declaration is easy, accountability is hard. Mr. Jordan, morning, how are you, buddy?
Hey, good morning, man. Good morning.
Morning. How them animals on the ranch?
I checked this morning, and it can't compare to the kingdom's farm at all. Old MacDonald is perishing.
I wonder if we're trying to rescue the animals like they did with Noah's Ark. Are they expecting a great flood?
It looks like even better. I mean, the farmers come of age since Noah's Ark, because what you're seeing there is any poor man's dream and a rich man's playground, basically. But I don't plan to deal with much of it, but we will pass through it as the session goes along, because there's so much things to talk about that it is not a distraction of course, and it's not one or the other, as Kaito News seems to think, because they have gone on a long spiel about why the concern, or why so much energy is being put into farm when Exxon, the usual Exxon bogey story and so on. It is not either or, it's not a binary, It all are being classified as the same. Enrichment at the expense of the population, essentially. So it's not an either or. And I think it brings into question the role or lack thereof of all the oversight bodies, the independence of critical institutions, and whether we will continue spewing issues like democracy and accountability and transparency, because in Guyana we seem to do that quite well. But we'll certainly touch on those topics as we go along in this over the next hour and a half or so. But yes, it's thankful Thursday, bright, sunny. It looks like we're coming to the end of the rainy season, and we're in for long days of hot weather. I heard that El Nino is somewhere around and approaching. So we got to be thankful for whatever is given to us and work with what is given to us. And as usual, glad to be in the land of the living. Of course, any number of people didn't make it. And of course, this week we recognize the death of Stephen Francis. The name perhaps don't ring a bell to many people, but those in sports and athletics, it will ring a great bell. Stephen Francis was the legendary Jamaican coach who died, or I think it's late last week or earlier this week, at the tender age of 64 years. He was the man and coach who co-founded the very popular and world-renowned MVP, which stands for Maximizing Velocity and Power, MVP, track and field in 1999. And the MVP, to its legendary coach, Stephen Francis, was responsible for, get this list of Olympic athletes and medalists, the likes of Shelley Ann Fraser Price, Elaine Thompson Hera, who is the fastest female, recognized as the fastest female ever, because there is and remains a controversy over the records set by the American Griffith Griffith Joyner. Others that came out of this club were Asafo Powell, the great underachiever, because Asafo Powell, who holds the record for the most under or sub 10 seconds in the 100 meters, I think he has about 100 sub 10 recordings in the 100 meters, has never won an individual gold medal. He has won a gold medal, but only as part of the all-powerful record-breaking Jamaican relay team in the 100 meters. So in many ways, he was deemed to be an underachiever. The club also can boast the likes of Michael Frater, Sherika Jackson, who is, of course, an Olympic athlete and medalist. We got people like Sharon Simpson, also Olympic athlete and medalist, Olympic medalist. And the latest, Kishan Thompson, who in the last Olympics, I think he got a silver, right? Many people said he was robbed of the gold medal, but at least he got a silver. And Tia and Tina Clayton, the explosive twins who have been taking the athletics circuit by storm. Yes, that is the man, Stephen Francis, who I understand also was a good mathematician and brought a number of mathematical theories to his method of coaching. Fantastic individual, and I hope he's given a grand send-off and recognized nationally because of all of the all that he has done for athletics and all that he has done in promoting Jamaica on the international stage. In fact, a number of athletes, international athletes, actually came to Jamaica to work and be coached by Stephen Francis. Tomorrow, July the 10th, will be the 4th anniversary of the death of my good friend, Leroy Augustus Charles, who died last year, 2025. So is wherever you be, heaven or otherwise, I hope you continue auditing the books, because in real life, he worked at the Auditor General's office for many years before migrating and working with the city government of New York. He was also, in his previous lifetime, a policeman. So, happy 4th anniversary in heaven, and may you continue to rest in peace. Tomorrow also is the birth anniversary of schoolmate of mine, Beverly Sam. But when she was at school, she was either Beverly Bess or Beverly Elliott. Post-secondary school, she married Robert Sam, well known under 20, captain and coach of the rugby, of the national rugby team, former Queen's College student. And for those who are as old, if not older, as me, Beverly and Robert, who are the parents of Judge Esther Sam, who for many, who was, I think, a year ago, made a judge, but for many years was a magistrate and worked especially on the Essequibo Coast. They were the proud owners of Home Care. Don't know how many of you guys remember Home Care. That was established out there in industrial site, and they used to sell all kinds of furniture and equipment and appliances back in the day. And they were also known for catering services. Home Care. I know many of you scratching your head to remember, but those.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
I hate to interrupt your train of thoughts, but I got to claim your ancestry.
Yes.
In the family you're talking about there, you know.
Which one?
Robert Sam, my mother's first cousin.
Okay.
My mother was a Sam.
Yes.
And Robert's sister, Adette, we used to call her. She might have headed the catering business because that was her thing, right?
Yes.
She was a big time caterer, Adette Sam. Right? She
Yes.
has 2 daughters, as far as I know, Shelly and Christine. Shelly was in the banking sector, and Christine Christine is Shelly is a teacher. Christine was in the banking sector.
In the banking.
Right. All right, good. So back to your story. Let's just claim fame.
That's right.
I think Robert, at one time had a business named Temperature Control or something also, the refrigeration business.
It seems so. He was in many different. He was really an entrepreneur that should have been emulated. It's unfortunate. I think these days he's into some other kind of business. But he's always on the go when it comes to business. It's unfortunate that a business like Home Care, which sprang up like a big beanstalk, was all over the place, and it came at a time, because this was in the 70s, I believe. It came at a time when such kinds of businesses, and especially owned by blacks, was unheard of, and they became a household name. And the question is always asked: why do black businesses not survive in this country? Because the history will show that in the 60s, in the 70s, right? Even I believe in the 80s, there were still a number of black businesses of household names. The names like L. King and Sons come to mind. He owned all kinds of different businesses. Regent Street, there were a number of black businesses in Regent Street. And the last I heard of any black business in Regent Street was the McDonald's, who I then heard were removed to Alexander Street. So I can't claim to know any major black business in Regent Street that is left. I know there may be one that is close to Ornock Street that sells hardware, material, and so forth. But from a situation where there were a number of black businesses and successful black businesses, you know, going way back to the 60s. I remember OS Bentham, right? Just that used to be close to where Gobin's used to be, OS Bentham and Sons. And in more recent times, there was AAA drugstore that was owned by my good friend, Dr. What is Dotson, Dr. Lyndon Dotson, right? Right there. And they occupied a building that was used to be, that used to house Cavalier Photo Studio. But they, like every other business, has gone to the great beyond. And it's something that needs to be studied and studied closely. But there are a number of challenges that face black businesses. Some of them we have said on this program, some that I have enunciated, some that you have also done in your empowerment Tuesdays and so on. But we need to go beyond the diagnosis and try to get a number of businesses, black businesses, going again. And that is why I am saying, with this money that they're going to be making available for the Ghana Development Bank, that we not give them the excuse for not lending to black people and black businesses, and that we prepare all those who want to get into business. We prepare them for the challenges that they will face, and the reason why they have to stick to it in face of all the obstacles that they will face. And one of the constraints that they will face is attitudes and culture. Attitudes and culture. With the exception of the community shop in a black neighborhood, it is difficult to get black customers contributing on a sustained basis to black businesses. And that is, if you don't have a captured market, you will not be able to survive. A captured market is important for going into business. An Indian shop that sells puri, dal, and so on, Indian foods, has a captured market in the Indian community. So they can start with that. And then they branch out to the other markets, the other ethnic markets, like the African markets and so on. But there's no guarantee that an African business that sells cocoa rice and fufu and so on has a captured market in the African community at the national level, much less attempting to branch off into other ethnics like the Indian markets and so on. That is one of the problems of black businesses, that they don't have a captured market. And without a captured market, black businesses will suffer, and suffer tremendously, because unlike other ethnics, I don't want to use the word loyalty, but African, generally, and African Guyanese, which is where we're looking at the moment, tend to be a bit more or less than loyal to their kind. And it comes from all kinds of different reasoning, but that is for another time. the idea we were talking about here is that too many black businesses have gone to the wayside. And even the ones that have struggled and trying to maintain a semblance, they have their own difficulties. And they're one or two really good ones. And in this, I must give a shout out to Karkir, who easily is the best in that business, but still have the difficulty of, of, of having that, what I call the captured market per se. And do recall last week I was talking about the elimination of the mom and pop stores, even in the villages, that have served those communities for years and years and years. And suddenly they switch loyalty to the emerging Chinese who do nothing for those communities, but who may, because of scale and otherwise, able to sell at a cheaper rate. Now, you know, a lot of people will say, well, you can't blame them because it is cheaper and money is tight and so on. That is true. That is true. That is true. But look at the long term. Look at the medium term. You're still going to go to the mom and pop that has gone the wayside to relate your story, because you can't go and relate a such story to a Chinese person who doesn't know your history, who doesn't even understand the environment within which you operate, but who knows the value of a dollar and a profit. But you will go to the mom and pop or the owners of the mom and pop store to relate your story because they look like you, they have similar history like you, they understand your struggle and so on. And you're more likely to get a response there than anywhere else. So it's not only the short term of the cheap. It's not only the short term of the cheap. Look at what cheap has done to the society anyway. Look at what it has done to us and look at what it has done to our values, our culture. Look at the professions it has destroyed. Cheap kites coming in at a time when you had thousands of kite makers all over the country making fantastic wooden kites, going to the lengths of showing their craft and so on. Look what we have done. Look what cheap shoes have done to shoemakers. Look what cheap dresses have done to our dressmakers, our fine dressmakers, and so on. Look at what it has done. Look how we're struggling to get creativity in the orange economy. So yes, it's cheap, and it has a way of depressing and compressing wages and so on because it's cheap. But look what it is doing to employment. Look what it's doing to jobs. Look what it's doing to our culture, our traditions, our communities. So yes, I said I had to mention home care because I didn't know how many people remembered home care, much less that it was associated with the Psalms, Beverly and Robert. And so tomorrow, Beverly is coming of another age. We all getting there. We all getting there. The Bible talked about it. And so we will be there tomorrow to help her celebrate her coming of age for the second time. 21 is the first coming of age, and the next one is what the Bible talked about. So we'll be there tomorrow. And of course, let me give a prospective shout out because by the time it happens, I will be on next week, Thursday. So let me give a prospective shout out to the owner of this CAMS TV, Kedaki Amsterdam, who celebrated a month of birthday, but his natal day on Sunday. And I want to send out a special greeting to you. And I hear your plea and so on. So I can take a widow's mite from my pension and make it available to you so that you can feed those children and continue your philanthropic activities. So we will work out how I can get that widow's mite to you, and I hope on Sunday you have a blast and enjoy your day. I want to congratulate again Kidaki on his Monday display in a continuation of his activism against the former president's bill 2026. And in doing so also, I want to recognize the continuing efforts of Annette Ferguson, who has also been doing against all odds her shows on Facebook and her Tuesday routine of 1 hour to sensitize the public about this grotesque former president's bill 2026. Please do recall my role in all of this, because it's not that I look for praise, but I want to recall the fact that I raised this matter on the same program weeks ago when I saw a post by Ganesh Maipal on Facebook immediately after the bill was laid in Parliament and read for the first time. Ganesh put out something on his Facebook. Nobody ever came out and told us this bill was among those that were laid in Parliament. In fact, no one seems to care to tell us what goes on in Parliament or what is expected or upcoming in Parliament. I recall that on this program some moons ago that you, Kidaki, had dedicated a space, I believe it was on Mondays, to Dr. David Hines, not for him to bring his Politics 100 show, but to report to the public on his parliamentary activities. Alas, that has been short-lived. We had about 3 or 4 of these sessions, and then I don't know what reason, but we no longer get. But beyond that, we don't have an idea. We don't get an idea of the business of Parliament. Nobody seems to want to involve us, educate us, and so on. But so it's in that context that Ganesh is putting the bill, or putting not the bill, but putting this thing about former presidents on the Facebook and inviting reactions to it. That was what he did, invited reactions to it. And I recall picking up the phone and calling him immediately after I read it. And for want of a better word, scolding him on exactly what he was doing. Because this bill, from the time it was laid, should have been an affront. It should have awoken the consciousness of at least the APNU MPs. You didn't have, it's a short bill. It wasn't a complicated bill. It was a short bill seeking to remove the 2015 bill. And every one of the APNU MPs should have been of faith with the 2015 Act. And even if they weren't, just merely reading a bill that is seeking to bring in unlimited benefits should have been nauseating to them. But instead, nobody brought out it. None. It was Ganesh Maipal who put it on his Facebook. It was me who immediately called him and said, where is the outrage? Nevertheless, I brought it on this program here. And I brought the outrage. And happily, it was picked up by Kidaki subsequently and Annette Ferguson. And then there afterwards, we got some reactions from David Hines on his program, some reactions from Dr. Todd on his program. There was a press conference in which it was mentioned by the APNU. But the thing that remains especially disappointing to this day is that both the parliamentary opposition and the non-parliamentary parties have not given this bill the attention it desires. They have not given this bill the attention it desires. I've seen where suddenly I got into a little tiff with a friend recently because he was saying he likes that Azuddin Mohammed was able to link this bill with the 150 acres farm. And I said, I had to say, first of all, Annette Ferguson had done that the day before. But that in any case, that was the first reaction we heard from anybody in the Win party about this bill. It was the first reaction. And today represents 28 days or 29 days since the last sitting of Parliament. So over 20-something days, you had to wait to get a by the way reaction from the main opposition party. And what continues to irk you is that you get this resigned reaction. Oh, the bill is going to pass. Of course, the bill is going to pass. That was never in doubt. Unless, like in 2011, the opposition had the majority in Parliament and therefore could dictate which bills got introduced and which got passed. All governments in power with the majority, as slim as they may be, will get their bills passed. But do they get the original bill that they put in Parliament passed? Or do they, after robust debate and commentary, both within and without Parliament, have to adjust their bills? I'm telling you, just take a look at the United States. A bill, the bill that gets the assent of both houses is dramatically different from the bill that was originally presented. None more so than, for example, financial bills. None more so than financial bills. But in Guyana, for the most part, every bill that is put into the Parliament gets passed as is. Why? It is because of the lack of robust opposition, both in the House and outside the House. I'm not saying every bill, but almost every bill. And in recent times, it's worse. It's worse. I remember the issue to do the National Resource Fund. I remember the issue to do the local content bill. all the different comments that were made. But you see, if you got parliamentarians who are willing only to make their points in parliament, where in the context of Guyana, that may mean nothing much. If you are only willing and holding your points to your chest, you don't want to make it in public because I holding it back for parliament, where you got little to no say. And in the case of the APNU, it's even worse. Because you're not shadowing any government minister, you are allocated 15 minutes. So how much effect would 15 minutes have in parliament? When outside of the parliament, you got all the time that you want. All the time that you want. If 12 members think that they will have an effect which 32, 31 could not have in the previous parliament, then you can believe anything. And they will certainly not have the effect given the approach that they have taken. Because when you're down to 12, you have to make even greater use of the other 800 and something thousand people you have outside of the parliament. That is where we are failing as APNU. That is where you are failing as the entire opposition, because you take the defeatist approach that we can't do anything in parliament. You damn well can't do anything in parliament because you're not using the powers, and you have this defeatist approach to these matters. This started out, that thing at Stabroek Market, People's Parliament. They started out, and like everything else, it petered out. No more to be found. Let me tell you something. If you can rouse the consciousness of a people who are suffering daily, if you can rouse the consciousness of the vendors in the market, the taxi drivers, the bus people, the cane cutters, the public servants, all of these people who are suffering, if you can rouse their conscience with an unconscionable former president's bill, what it would take to rouse those people? Are you going to rouse their conscience in parliament? The majority of people in this country don't listen to parliament. They have no interest in parliament. You got to go and talk to the people on the ground 24/7. You have to do unorthodox methods to reach those people. When orthodoxy fails, unorthodox methods have to be tried. And what? Annette was out there with her banner. She alone. She took and got her money and little help and got 500 flyers. And within a short time was able to share them out in high density places like the Stabroek Market area. Not one of y'all saw it fit to go out there and help her or to show solidarity. And she is a member of the PNC. Unlike many of us who are supporters, she is a member of the PNC. And PNC members could not go and support their own member who was out there bringing consciousness to people about an unconscionable bill. And Kadaki was out there on Monday. I know he started that out as Kidaki, but I didn't know that WPA adopted it. He could clarify that, because I knew it was he who started it. But he was out there. It was a holiday. It was in Buxton, a predominantly black community. And that is where even more of our concern lies. That on a holiday, a stand-up ticket is being held in a predominantly black community that traditionally votes PNC/WPA. Didn't seem to know or understand or even appreciate what this bill will do. But there's a lot of work to be done. This bill apparently will be coming up shortly because, why do I say that? I have seen over the last week, I have been contacted, whether by phone or WhatsApp, by persons associated with FGM, persons associated with WIN. I have been previously contacted by persons associated with APNU. So it seems that this bill will be coming up fairly shortly. It has to be, because Parliament shuts down on the 10th of August. That's a month's time. So somewhere in between there, they are going to bring this bill. As I said, based on the flurry of activity I've seen of contacts over the last week. And I have responded positively to all the persons who have contacted me. You know why I've done so? I've done it in the spirit of one opposition. I've done it in the spirit of one opposition. I didn't deny, because some of the people who contacted me were my former colleagues in cabinet. But they're now with different parties. I didn't respond to them. I responded to them basically both as former colleagues, recognize them as former colleagues, but in the spirit of one opposition. We can't be a situation where you only have 29 seats collectively, and you continue almost a year after the last election to operate in silos. In silos. After observing that you have not been able to move the needle in Parliament. It has been worse than the previous Parliament or any Parliament that we had prior to this one. Check it out and you'll see in almost 1 year how many parliaments have they had, how many sit-ins have they had. The greatest number of sit-ins were for the budget. After then, after the budget, after 100 and something days, you had a sit-in 28 days ago. You had a sit-in 28 years ago, 28 days ago. This is shaping up to be the worst parliament in the history of the country. And yet still, there's no urgency to change course. Any review of the events that have taken place 1 year, almost 1 year after, will show that the parties that form the opposition are worse off individually and collectively than any other opposition we have had in this country. None. And this penchant for small victories, we were able to get the embassies to force government to call parliament. Because I saw that being claimed by the FGM. These, you know, I said on this program before, I'll say it again. No foreign people force the government to call parliament. The government is in a position never before held by previous governments. That is, it controls massive resources, financial, national, natural, and otherwise. The same people you're claiming to be the Western countries are back in Guyana with a bang bang, not only a bang, bang bang. They control every conceivable natural resource that we know about and we don't even know yet about, like rare earth metals. This is not a case where you got the Jagonnite type communism, socialism, or even the Barnum Fabian socialism. This is a case where Jagon's party has flipped the script and let the world know that you can come in and rape Guyana. And so that invitation has been taken up by the Western and their red friends. Those people aren't about anymore to do the kind of advocacy that they were doing in the 70s or in the 80s or so on, when they had to control communism and so on. So when you think you get the embassies to force government, you won't get no embassy to force the government to do anything. The government did its thing when it felt like doing its thing. And the faster you come to realize that what is facing you is the quicker you will change course. You in a government with 36 seats out of 65 got time to worry with you? I mean, it's unfortunate that we're saying it like this, but that is the reality. And so you got to get a strategy to counter that. And so far, you're going with the same old, same old. The government calls this parliament when it feels like calling it because it has an objective. And for the government, parliament is a distraction. In any functioning democracy, you really think you will get a junior MP speaking on behalf of the government saying that the parliamentary committees have to await the freeing up of space by the members before the meetings of that parliamentary committee can be called? That is what a member said, and I read yesterday, a member of the PPP. Oh, it's not that we don't want to attend the PAC, the most important parliamentary committee. It is just that we got busy. We busy right now, man. You got to wait. That committee has to wait until we tie up things and free up ourselves before we attend meetings. You hear that? a powerful statutory parliamentary committee has to wait the freeing up of the people before the meeting can call. It's not the other way around. And that is a government MP telling you that. And what have you done? You could write how many letters you want to the parliamentary council, parliamentary association, US embassy, and all this kind of thing. What those people telling you? You got to solve your problems. If you are making no attempt to solve your problems, how you expect we outside bodies to come and interfere in your business? And how you expect to solve your problems when you operating in silos at the opposition? No, but I got my points, but I don't want to give you, because then I ain't got anything to say in Parliament. Who cares? Who cares if you ain't got anything to say in Parliament? Because all that happening is the Hansard. But if you have to say it outside here, where they have a bigger audience, and if you can say it where the people understand it, and if you could get your flyers out and you got your bottom house meetings going and so on, that is how you educate those people. That is how you educate those people. You don't educate them by running into Parliament and thinking that nobody got time to listen to 6 and 7 hours of dreary speeches that and cuss out and abuse out and fish up in Parliament. You got your open Parliament out there, but you don't want to make use of it. That is where people will listen to you. That is where people will react to you. They can't get anywhere near to Parliament. You got all them police and all kind of story. Can't even pick it anywhere near to Parliament anymore. No strategy, at least that we can see, to change what is quickly becoming a no hope situation. And win, which is the leading party. My God, jeez, we have never been so weak. Never been so weak. A leader of the opposition who doesn't have a press conference, say a weekly press conference, to bring matters to the fore. A leader of the opposition cannot think that he will survive on videos. Cannot think that he will survive on videos. And videos that essentially are reaction to things that he himself was involved with before. Okay, videos are part of the armory of things you have out there. Agreed? We got no problem. But that cannot be the only. That is a small subset of the requirements of leader of the opposition. And the problem we got even more now is that the government don't recognize you. Now, we know that is wrong and everything else, but the government doesn't recognize you. And therefore, the government has done everything that it could do to show that disdain for you. A typical, the Constitutional Reform Commission has now started its work. When rightly or otherwise says, but look, listen, man, we're not represented on that committee. And based on the last elections, we should have a representation. I don't see anything wrong with that, because the committee's work was not in process while the elections were conducted. Not a single thing work had started with the committee. And therefore, this was not a disruption of the committee's work. I mean, we, we can't go on the basis that every time you got election or disruption and so on, these things got to change because it will disrupt the work. But in this case, it's kind of different. As far as I know, the AFC member, Mr. Nigel Hughes, resigned as soon as the results of the elections were known. So isn't there a vacancy? Isn't there a vacancy? Or is there a vacancy to be filled by AFC? Be that as it may, the government say, here, man, the CRC law is in place. There's nothing wrong with it. The work going to start. The work going to start. Which I think is wrong. And I think any right-thinking person will feel it's wrong. But it is the reaction, it is the typical reaction of the government in not recognizing the leader of the opposition. What does the leader of the opposition do in that regard? And oh, by the way, before we go any further, the AFC says, at least David Patterson says, that you're going to require wins. Why is the government not including win on the CRC? Because you're going to require wins support to change the constitution. Then the peeping Tom, 2 days ago, I think it is, who picked up and agreed with David Patterson. Well, I beg to disagree. I beg to disagree. You see, to change the constitution, it requires a 2/3 majority. The last time I checked, 2/3 of 65 is roughly 44. Is roughly 44. The government got 36. The APNU got 12. If the APNU were to vote with the government, that's 48. Well above the 44. You don't need win. You don't need win. And even if you went outrageously and says, well, 3/4, which the constitution does not, I don't know that it provides for 3/4, but let me say 3/4. You still don't need win because with FGM, there's now 49. The APNU got seats on the CRC. So unless it's something that is they violently oppose, like for example, if they want to change the name of of Guyana by removing the cooperative, which I will violently oppose, then I can't see the APNU, who is part of that CRC and so on, not agreeing to basically what is put up to change the constitution. No, but the point I'm trying to make, though, is that you don't need win to change the constitution, quite unlike what David Patterson and Pippin Tom them were saying. You can get that 44 by just the government and the APNU. So in many ways, win is being blanketed. When your main opposition is being blanketed. Now, what does that say for the future of opposition, not only in the parliament, but in the country? One has to come and realize the disservice you're doing to all of those who didn't vote for the government. It means you're not getting proper representation. Why will I continue to back a party that can't raise the bar or get the government to move? And having recognized that, why WIN wants to continue to operate in a silo? Where there's this bad blood or seeming bad blood between WIN and the APNU? Where there seems to be no effort whatsoever to meet and agree on joint programming, joint representation, strategies for operating in the parliament, and so on. You were telling me that as a gesture of support, WIN could not send a few members to Monday's stand up to be counted exercise by Kidaki. WIN could not encourage some of its members to stand up with ANEP. WIN on its own cannot do anything to show their opposition to this bill. What exactly is WIN doing outside of videos? What? What is WIN's position on the development bank? How are they going to help push their people in that direction? What is WIN's position on activism? Activism, not Facebook activism, activism. And WIN has to accept that the bulk of their MPs are greenhorns. That's not a derogatory name, it's a reality. They don't have parliamentary experience, they don't have political experience, and therefore they're swimming in an ocean with sharks. And so far, they have not been doing a good job of it. And they are not a secondary party, they are the primary opposition party. So WIN has to step back and re-strategize in the context of what they go, because it don't make no sense keep harping, oh, the government this, the government that, and all kind of story. I told y'all to let the APNU chair the PAC. Had Ganesh been elected PAC member, you might have had more. Sometimes it got to let your ego go. It's the bigger principle that is involved. You put a WIN person to head the PAC, although it's wrong, the strategy is wrong. The government is turning up because they don't want to interact with WIN people. You have to find different ways of countering the government. You don't have to always be upfront. I said it up front. I said, put Ganesh in charge of the PAC. The government was more likely to turn up. People say, well, you're giving into the government. Look, it's best you give in to the government and get the investigation into the years of the government spending going, rather than not giving in to the government. Years are passing, those accounts in people's memories are going. Which one is better? Are there many ways to get this thing going? Is it only because you get 16 seats or how many that you got to take over everything, even though you have no experience in these matters? So I have a difficulty with that. And this whole business of the opposition. And I think people are beginning to get agitated, angry at what they deem to be a very tepid opposition. A bunch of crybabies. Every minute, government reaction, you cry, you go and run to Facebook and you cry. And, oh, let me explain it this way. Oh, God, what have you done for people lately? What are our critical issues are getting lost in all this foolishness? Lost. What have you done? Do you know it's 7 years? 7 years since NIS pensioners have got an increase. 7 years The last increase was in 2019. 7 years. And what? Not one of y'all bringing up these issues. Not one of y'all making a representation. Not one of y'all are out there advocating for them. None. And APNU, let it be made very, 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 very clear. Very clear. At the last election, a significant number of those 77,000 or how many votes you got came from elderly folks. Not from the youths who abandoned the party and went with Win and other places. It came from elderly folks. So the irony is that the party for which the elderly folks voted is not representing them in this critical matter of the NIS pensions. Seven years, the same pension. Tell me, that would have hurt even young people who could walk, more than one walk. But the elderly folks, 60 and over, 7 years without an increase in NIS pension, while rampant inflation rule this country. Rampant. Don't worry, even the thing that they call official inflation also would have eaten away at these pensions. But the unofficial inflation, like the unofficial exchange rate, is rampant in this country. And 7 years, the government, 7 years of PPP government has seen it fit not to pay an increase in NIS pensions. Who they spiting? Who they spiting? NIS, even if NIS were in deficit, which they no longer are in, NIS is the lone institution that is still under the COFA, which is still in existence. The COFA Act was never revoked. They're still under COFA, Cooperative Finance Administration Act, COFA. Under that act, the deficits of NIS, as far as they exist, got to be made good by the government. You can't be penalizing the people who contributed to that scheme. You're penalizing them by saying you can't raise their income because they're deficits. Who allowed the scheme to go into deficits? The very PPP government that had the people's money stolen in the Clico debacle, invested in very non-profitable investments like the Borbies Bridge and so on. Why the government penalizing these NIS people? But that is the situation. Where is the advocacy of the party that the elderly folks voted for in 2025? Nothing. Nothing. The issues, the burning issues of the day are either left as a footnote of history, or if dealt with, dealt in a manner that is less than robust. We're tired of press conference. We're tired of press statements. These things, while important, don't move the needle. And we're moving from one crisis to the next crisis. One puppy show to another puppy show. The latest one being 150 acres. You know what is amazing about the 150 acres? Is that so many people have crawled out the report and said they knew about it. They knew about it. I don't know if it's the it or a variant of the it. Some folks said they were aware that this man got about 20 acres of land at Low Creek way back sometime, they say in 2011, or when he was minister in charge of trade and tourism. And certain documents have surfaced on the Facebook and otherwise, which purportedly show that this 20 acres was signed, the lease was signed by Jagdeo as then president. There's some level of photographic evidence to show that not much was done with this 20 acres. There was some poultry farming or something of the sort that was going on there, but nothing to survive. There's some recent evidence that show, and it is in a press statement that is put out by the APNU, that this land acquisition was part of the investigation of Sarah and so on. All of these things you're now hearing about. All of these things you're now hearing about. As to when the acreages move from 20 to 150, nobody knows. But I believe that every lease of land in this country has to be gazetted. And therefore, Mohammed, who seems to have money still, can get some researchers to go down to the registry and find out from the gazettes, go through the back gazettes, to find out when the allocation of the extra 130 acres was made, who was the president. Because when it comes to, I think, those kinds of land, the president, only president can sign, can give lease. So that is one area where we will find out how the extra 130 was given. Then, if everything that we saw on that drone footage is correct, then the estimate of $2.2 billion could very well be just a conservative estimate, but we can work with it. And then the questions begin to flow. The questions begin to flow. How does a person whose today's salary, according to Mohammed, is 3.7 million tax-free a month, and assuming that he doesn't use any part of his salary for anything because everything else is free. That will make him getting roughly $45 million a year. Roughly $45 million a year. And that is in 2026. Because if you go back from 2020, his salary would have been far less. So let us average 40 million a year. And it's not 6 years yet, but let us agree with 6 years, because August 2020 to August 2026, well, so let's call it 6 years. At average, let me say 40 million. That's $240 million over 6 years. That's $240 million. And how do you buy the rest being financed by bank loans? How many bank loans a bank is willing to give you in undeveloped territory? Lease. How many bank loans? So that is one. But I think there are several other bigger issues. One is the toothlessness of the critical agency in this case, which is the Integrity Commission. And I'm not even talking about the fact that all information submitted to the commission is confidential. I'm talking from the standpoint of the Integrity Commission not being imbued with the not the authority, but the wherewithal to investigate these submissions. Where you can't investigate all, you do what all other institutions do, like tax institutions, so on. They can look at certain ones and say, okay, this one here we got to look into. This one here we got to look into. But unlike, say, Jamaica, where your information is not confidential, it could be public. You know how much Wholeness, in fact, Wholeness himself right now is under investigation by the Integrity Commission in Jamaica. And he's the Prime Minister. These things can only mean something beyond window dressing if they're imbued with the power backed by teeth. If they're imbued with the autonomy and independence to allow them to do their work. But in Guyana, this is not so. This is not so. And why is that? We just got these institutions as puppy shows. Puppy shows, and they are infested. They are infested with the favorites, the flatterers, the families, the friends. They are infested. So they got no institution in this country anymore with any semblance of autonomy that will bring out a report that is adverse, that will start an investigation into somebody of importance in this country. You know, I was reading the other day a 1461 podcast. And here's a quick comment from it. It says, the guy says, political parties have gained unchecked power in the Caribbean, creating what he called prime ministerial monarchies. This shift isn't solely due to politicians' greed, but also their voluntary, and I dare say enforced, withdrawal of society's key institutions, including professional associations, the media, the chambers of commerce, and so on. And this has happened because the government has been able to place fraternity members, families, and friends to head all key offices of governance. This is what has happened. So you ain't gonna get already the very deformed integrity institute. Even though the coalition government, we tried to add in some more things, the annexes and so on, to it still doesn't have the teeth. And all those submissions remain confidential. They remain confidential, but no investigation is taking place. No investigation is taking place, notwithstanding the ostentatious display of wealth accumulation by those in government and those attached to the government. Nothing. The next institution is our GRA. Is our GRA. But GRA, I don't know that they have the people And even if they have the people, I don't know if they have the people of the quality to devote to investigating what is being touted as the returns of many of these people. I don't know. And there's no interlinkage based on some of the laws, because income tax laws, income, you have to remain confidential. Banking laws, Secrecy Act, remaining confidential. This so the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. People got 10 different books, one for the self, one for the bank, one for the insurance, one for the property people, one for the GRA, and so on. So nobody, there's no link. There's no link. You're seeing all these buildings going up and so on. Who own the building? Buyer here, such and so own it. But whoa, these people are keeping off the radar by making a return, knowing fully well that the GRA is burdened, particularly with the petroleum situation, burdened and will not come anywhere near their return. Right? They keep GRA away by submitting a return and so on. So we are going to go through this puppy show. That's why I don't want to spend any particular time on it. It's a puppy show. We have no serious institution in this country who is prepared, now that they see what is in the public domain, to go. Integrity Commission will not start an investigation. GRA will not start an investigation, because that is even worse now. Because you have this gray area. Well, not is that gray, but a sovereign president is exempt from income tax on his salary and is exempt from all other taxes. And that includes property tax, capital gains tax, value-added tax, import duties, customs tax, excise tax, stamp duty, every other tax. And this is the reason why you got to get upset with a bill that seeks to remove caps and to treat with former presidents as if they were still in the capacity of a president. Because, like I said the last time, the only difference between a sovereign president and a former president under this new 2026 bill is that the former president is getting 1/8 salary less than the current president. Because remember, his pension is 7/8 the current salary of the current president, which is bigger than the salary he was getting while he was the president. Consider this. Jagdio's pension is far larger than the salary he got when he demitted office. Tell me how many public servants, 20 years after collecting pension, is getting a pension bigger than the salary they left 20 years ago as a public servant. Tell me how many. Tell me how many you can find. But that is how we put in former presidents as kings and monarchs in a country that is bleeding under 58% poverty, crying. Its people are crying under 58% poverty in this country. And you're telling me there is not an outrage in this country. You know why there's not an outrage? Because people have not been sensitized nationally. And the ones who are supposed to sensitize them are hiding, ducking and hiding. They're peeping through the blind and the window. It's left to folks like myself and Tedaki and Annette to use whatever little voice we got. But that is not nationally. Why aren't people outraged at something that is going to suck more money from them? Why aren't people outraged that instead of giving and increase pension to the suffering NIS people, you got to take that money now to give to former presidents, and we got 4 of them. Why? Why aren't people outraged with that? Why haven't we put that through the Caribbean about what is being done to us in this country? A president who gets perhaps the highest salary in the entire South America, and that at a time when the average monthly salary in Guyana ranks 11 out of 13 South American countries. But we got a president who gets the highest salary in. And you all got to remember, at 3.7 million, that is what Mohammed quoted a month, that works out to roughly 18,500 US a month. And that is tax-free. Tax-free. So if you want to compare it with around the world, especially where people got to pay taxes, we got to gross that up. You got to adjust it by another 30% to get his taxable, his gross salary. In a country at 58% poverty, a president is getting 18,000 US dollars tax-free a month. Just salary, just salary, just salary. And is interested in bringing a bill to give him unlimited benefits after he leaves office. And they must stop using Granger name. There's a pity Granger has said nothing about this. Because every time they want to say, they say Granger. But they're forgetting one thing. It is Granger who signed the 2015 bill, capping benefits. Capping benefits, taking away benefits where a president has been convicted, and removing tax-free after a president has left office. Yes, they like to do that. They like to compare. Like they're bringing out their people out of their woodwork and working overtime. You got people never even born during Barnum time telling you what Barnum had buffalo. Telling you that Barnum had buffalo and Barnum had farm. And for the life of you, you don't have his progeny and those coming out and fiercely attacking that nonsense. Barnum never had no farm. In fact, they painted Barnum as some 5th richest black man in the world and riches and so on. Barnum used to live in, when he became prime minister, he lived on Vicinian Road, where they call the residence, where they hosting the paintings, our paintings, and so on now. But Barnum abandoned that residence a long time ago and used to live at Belfield. Belfield, that's where Barnum went to live. Barnum went and lived among the common people in Belfield. He didn't create no estate. He didn't take away no estate land. He didn't take away ancestors' land. He didn't use government money to develop that land and then parcel it out to friends, family, and favorite. Barnum went and lived among the common people at Belfield, where he might have had some chickens and whatever else. Barnum used to like ride horse and smoke cigar. Everybody is entitled to a little bit of this here and there. But ostentatiousness, would have tried to blame me for, he never had. Height used to operate from his residence in North Road, another poor man's community. And when they had the severe blackouts in this country, Hyde tell them he want no special line, they must give it to the hospital. And he was in blackout like everybody else in that community. They talk, listen, Chedi Jagon, when he was premier, because Charlie Jagger was never prime minister in this country, he was premier. Lived in Red House in High Street. That's where he lived, in Red House in High Street. Barnum never moved into Red House. That's where Jagan, where they got the Jagan Library. And as soon Jagan became president in 1992, the very governor's mansion that was a symbol of colonialism in this country, Jagan moved in immediately into the symbol of colonialism in this country, that same place in Main Street. Neither Barnum nor Haight moved in there. And Granger moved in there after a little 2x2 there in Durban Backlands started to flood. And they said about how Granger built mansion and they had drone and that kind of thing. You know, that is so sad. President Granger's brother died and left that property to him, where he lives now in Pearl. And I know, and I could say it publicly, he had to take a big loan to repair the decaying property. Big loan to repair that decaying property. And that's how he moved into that. Durban Backlands, he had as a shrine for Barnum, but they had to move that also because the whole place flooded. That's low lands they got down there, flooded. Some of the Barnum's exhibits and so on might have been destroyed during that flood. It is Viola Barnum who had a little farm where the Chinese, at the back where the Chinese embassy is now is. And she had a couple of buffaloes, which I understand was gifted to her. And when I used to live in Hatfield Street, large, right opposite the cultural center, we used to go there and buy buffalo milk. It's a rich, thick milk that could stretch. Throw a little water in it and thing. Boil it. Rich. Buffalo milk. And Mrs. Barnum, God rest the dead, bless her, beautiful woman, Borbishon. She was a harper. I remember when they got married as a small boy. That woman died a pauper. She died a pauper. So don't let it try to deflect now the 150 acres of unbelievable display of wealth, even in the agricultural sector. Tried to say, but Barnum this, and Barnum had farm with cows and all kind of stuff. There had a couple of buffalo used to roam around the place. Those vicious looking animals, you had to run like hell if they get a little serious from roaming in the backlands. And in the backlands there, you didn't have this road that you got to go through there. What they call it, is it Mandela Avenue at the back? No, you didn't have that road. You had a track. You had a track there. We moved into Hatfield Street in 1974, and there you had a track. You didn't have that road there. That's where she used to mine. The cows used to roam and so on. So you had to be running like hell when you're walking through the track, and those buffaloes are roaming and grazing while at the back there. All total nonsense. These clowns never ever. And you impugning the integrity of these people because they're dead. And the thing is, amazingly, when they were alive, those now who live among the time and still alive, they couldn't even say kwe when them people were alive. Certainly not Barnum. Let them have him out there. We think the congressman and they get Barnum. Not one of them Barnum died on an operating table. Not one of them were able to move and shift Barnum. He died on an operating table. So when we come back to this whole business of farm and farm gate and all this kind of thing. Next week, they're going to be something else because we raise them, they go through the usual thing, they get violent reactions and so on, and then we move on to the next thing. We are in a trap at the moment. Trap. Like I said, this time in a long time. Long time because it depend on the United States and Britain and all these things, all these places to express some degree of displeasure. We could expect international institutions to similarly raise some issues about democracy and all this kind of story. But these days, with the wealth that Guyana has and its ability to foolishly use it, nobody bothers. On to the next headline. Everybody's coming to get a piece of the pie. We have never hosted so many CARICOM leaders like we have done over the last couple of years. We have never. So things have changed, and the PPP know how to work that. And as galling as this whole thing has shown, you will see by next week they have moved on to something else, or they have been able to erase it from the consciousness of the people. Because the advocacy is not there. It has gone. Years ago, TG will have followed up their statements with activism. That's no longer there. The political parties, in this case, especially WIN, should have, from the time they raise it, moved on to the next level because they know nothing will happen with the statements and the drone photo and so on. It will make for good rum shop talk at home and in the diaspora, but it will not move the needle. It will not move the needle. And WIN will go on as they have done so far to the next thing. Now he's on a boat in the ocean. Just 1 second. Hello? Hello? Sorry about that. Phone. Yes, now he's in a boat in the ocean telling us about the leak in the pipeline, the dormant pipeline that has been lying there since December 2024, waiting for the never-ending gas to energy project to be completed. And he's out there making some further disclosures. Again, as I said, it is good to make the disclosures. What next? What next? The government has come out with a statement saying, well, it's not true and all kind of story. But that is the end of it. You said this, I said this, story done. Yeah? Now you're hearing story about the gas to energy and the piles that they that they drove. And it's likely weakness and so on and thing. All these disclosures, yes. But what next? What next? So, as we said, like everybody else, we are waiting the next development. We are waiting the next development. And we, as you said, we're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see. And that is what the government will be doing. They're just waiting to see if any untowards, but they expect to turn up the fan. They have the fan on number 2. They will turn up the fan to number 3 and expect that heavy breeze to blow away any remaining whiff of the scandal. We don't have the institutions, we don't have the culture in this country that will ensure that swift action will be taken. We're not criminalizing anybody, but the swift action would mean that the institutions, without waiting for somebody to make a complaint, would, because of their powers, begin an investigation. They will not do that. They will not do that. We don't have any institution in this country. None. And so that tiny few will continue to get away, while those institutions will be inundated with the paperwork for the large number of people who are powerless or near powerless in this society. We shall wait and see. And of course, as I said, they are likely to be convening Parliament, if not next week, then the following week. And of course, top of the agenda would be, before any other business, top of the agenda would be the supplementary budget that was laid 20-something days ago when last they had Parliament. You know, this business about supplementary budget has become so nauseating, and it's become synonymous with why Parliament is normally held. They normally call a Parliament when they want more money, which is the principal reason, or when they want to rush through some bill. And if you want to know how public advocacy is greater than what they do in Parliament, one only has to look at that fiasco a couple of weeks ago with the sex crimes registry. And as a result of the public advocacy, it's not the people in Parliament, it was the president outside of Parliament who announced, let the bill go to select committee. It is not the proposer of the bill who will normally say that we propose that the bill be sent to select committee. It was the president outside of Parliament who announced that the bill will go to the select committee. But that was when they were under pressure from the public advocacy. And if the opposition didn't learn any lessons from that, they will not learn any lessons at all. How to make your numbers, small as they be, as large as the government's. Because the sum total of the public is greater than the sum of all of y'all in that Parliament. Now, they got two kinds of supplementary budgets. What we call a contingency fund and what we call straight supplementary. Section 24 of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act. And of course, prior to that, above that is the Constitution. It authorizes the Minister of Finance to seek supplementary estimates in situations where the reallocation of funds within the organization within the original estimates, sorry, has been exhausted. Right? And that is what we call a straight supplementary. Okay? The Constitution provides also for contingency fund. And that is a situation where any expenditure that is unforeseen, is of an emergency, and cannot await either a reorganization of the estimates in Parliament or a straight supplementary, the government can spend money from the contingency fund, which is a sub-fund of the consolidated fund, and seek to replenish that fund afterwards. So you have supplementary of two kinds: ex ante, where the government uses money, then seeks approval afterwards, and ex post, where the government goes directly to the Parliament to seek approval, to spend additional monies over and above those that were in the estimates. But be it known that any expenditure that was known at the time the original estimates was finalized cannot be considered to be unforeseen. While in-year budget changes are necessary to respond to emerging issues, such provisions should not generally be misused or used as an opportunity to alter the original policy objectives or to introduce a new project without robust interrogation by both the public and the Parliament. You know, you can't wake up overnight to hear that the government suddenly decides to buy out the owners of the Berbice Bridge halfway into the budget that has widespread policy and fiscal implications. You're telling me a budget just come out. A budget is not an overnight something. It's something that, let us say, sometimes it's 3 years in the making. Because if you notice, the estimates have the current year budget and 3 outer years estimates, indicative numbers. And you're telling me that long after the budget has been finalized, presented, approved, the government then comes and says, we're talking to people to buy out the Berbice Bridge. Widespread policy implication, and so on. In the middle of a budget, the government announces all bridge tolls are scrapped. You just put out a budget with a revenue stream, but the government then comes in the middle of nowhere, not under any pressure, and announces all revenue tolls are scrapped, with widespread implications up to this day, with Linden now in a mess because they don't have the revenue from the tolls, and the government is refusing to fill that gap. So many of the workers haven't been paid, you know, and all this kinds of story. But that's for another time again too. So the government has become comfortable coming to the Parliament so many times in a year for monies, some of it well in excess of what was budgeted under the very item. And let me give you a pattern. I started this, but I don't know that I will finish it because I know my time is coming close. But we will see how far we will get. So I went back and I did some research on the pattern of supplementary requests by this government since they came back into power in 2020. So if you got pen and paper, here goes, or you could always listen back to the program. Now in 2020, right? You remember 2020 is a truncated year. We came out August the 2nd. So we had 7 months of expenditure, which is just expenditure to keep the government going while a new government comes into place. And they had 5 months of expenditure, right? They also had the unenviable task of producing the budget for 2020 that would incorporate the spending that we took, that we had undertaken. As I remembered, we had spent roughly 187, I think it's roughly $187 million or something like that for the 7 months. Okay, so the 2020 budget was $329.5 billion. That budget was approved September 26, 2020. Notwithstanding that, listen to this, notwithstanding that, over the next October, November, December, over the next 3 months, because remember this budget was approved September 26, 2020, over the next 3 months, the government brought 2 supplementary papers, 2 supplementary papers in those 3 months. The first supplementary paper is where they spent from the contingency fund. Paper 1 was from the contingency fund. They spent $792.3 million. Can you imagine bringing out a budget September 26, 2020, and you are already dipping your hand in the contingency fund a couple of days afterwards for $792.3 million. Then, as if that were not bad enough, they then brought a supplementary paper. I think that paper was brought in December of 2020 for $17.4 billion. $17.4 billion in December 2020, after bringing out the budget September the 26th, 2020. So combined, the 2 papers were $18.2 billion, representing 5.5% of the original budget. 5.5% of the original budget. And we're being generous, right? We're being generous because of that $329.5 billion, I said roughly $187 billion was already spent by the coalition government. So if you were to put that 18 point something billion under the balance, this percentage supplementary would dramatically increase as a percent of the spending by the PPP government. The pattern continued in the 2021 budget. The budget was approved March the 4th, 2021 for $383.1 billion. $383.1 billion. There were unbelievably 4 supplementary papers in 2021. 4. The first supplementary paper was a contingency fund, which means they use money without parliamentary approval. They can seek parliamentary approval after. They use money from the contingency fund, $1.9 billion. Then there was a second paper, which was a straight supplementary that went to the parliament for $21.4 billion. $21.4 billion. Then there was a third supplementary paper. Again, they took money, notwithstanding the fact that they went for supplementary provision for $21.4 billion. They still went back to the contingency fund again, and they took out $5.1 billion. And then to crown it off, around December of that year again, there was a fourth supplementary paper for $21.5 billion. $21.5 billion. Overall, for the year 2021, there were supplementary papers worth $50 billion. equivalent to 13% of the 2021 budget. 13% of the 2021 budget. And this mismanagement continued in 2023. In 2023, the budget for 2023 was $552.9 billion. $552.9 billion. It was approved on February the 10th, 2022. Like in 2021, there were 4 supplementary papers that were brought to the Parliament. The first paper was for a straight supplementary budget of $44.8 billion. $44.8 billion. That was followed by another paper for a contingency fund advance. Look, as somebody who has been in budgeting for years, who has been in financial and fiscal planning, management of budgets, and so on. When I did this research and I look at this here, I could only shake my head, could only shake my head. So that supplementary budget of $4.8 billion was followed by a contingency fund paper that was worth $2.9 billion. So this is where they went and take money without approval, that they can seek approval afterwards. Then there was a third paper, another supplementary of $44.4 billion, followed by a fourth paper, a contingency fund of $3.8 billion. Overall, the total supplementary for that year was $95.9 billion, representing 17.3% of the original budget. I'm getting hoarse, Konaki, so I want to stop there. And to say that I will continue 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026, and then I will dissect the 2026 paper next week, and also reflect on the half year, for which a report, the half year report, is expected by August the 29th. But I will remind our folks here that yours truly, when he was minister, was able to present every half-year report, except I believe the first one, within days of August, and certainly before the Parliament went into recess. I remind also that yours truly, as a minister, concerned about supplementary and its impact on the budget and budget outcomes and so on, was able to manage the 2017 and 2018 budgets without recourse to the contingency fund. And until and unless the government strengthens its management of these resources, contingency fund and supplementary budgets will remain nothing more than funds available for spending by the budget agencies without understanding that spending has consequences, the likes of which we are seeing in this economy with the quality of the roads and other infrastructure, and ultimately cost of living and inflation. All right, so I want to end there today. Like I said, I'm getting a bit hoarse. I usually do when I spend too long, violating my doctor's advice. But we have to do what we have to do, and we have to, in our own way, help to bring quality education to our people. So until next week, goodbye. Do stay safe.
Thank you for your birthday wishes. Thank you for your acknowledgement of my efforts, and thank you for all that you do. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. And I hope that you consider your time well spent for all the knowledge and hopefully the understanding we're able to gather from this morning's program. It is now 24 minutes to the 10 o'clock hour. Yes, 24 minutes to the 10 o'clock hour, so it's time for us to leave you. And I will do just that. I'll see you tomorrow for Free Talk Friday. And we're going to talk a lot of things. We're going to talk some other things that some of the people want us to talk about and so on. So stay alert. Stay blessed up. Remember to play your part. Share knowledge. Those posters are still on Cam's TV page. As a matter of fact, every day we're adding a poster, we're adding a cartoon and so on and so forth to convey the same message that you're dealing with a corrupt government, a government that is abusing its privileges by virtue of its majority, a government that's abusing our resources. And I'm reminding you that the only people to stop that would be you. The citizens, we are the citizens. We have to stop the runaway train that is the PPP. Nobody else. Okay? Mr. Jordan asked earlier for me to clarify whether I started this campaign against the former president's bill as WPA, the party, or as an individual. I'm not necessarily going to answer that question. You are followers of the page, you're followers of the programs. You've heard my utterances on this issue, and so you can draw your own conclusions. But one of the things I can say, it would appear as though in this society, you can't be an activist unless you are identified with an organization. That is the impression a lot of people get, that unless it's an organizational action, it can be taken. Good? Unless you identify with an organization, and in some instances, a big organization, a powerful organization, and so on, you as a citizen, you can't engage in activism. That is the impression people give you. And that's a dangerous impression. The media is responsible for shaping that mindset, among other things. And that's a very, very dangerous mindset, because the fact is, as citizens of this country, you have a right to raise your voices against anything that is not right, anything that is not in keeping with the national interest. You as an individual, you as a citizen, you have a right to raise that issue. Good? And so let people stop giving you the impression or trying to condition you to believe that unless you're a part of an organization, unless you have an organization's backing, you can't engage in activism. It's wrong. As individuals, as citizens of this country, you have rights, you have responsibilities. And you can act on those rights and responsibilities, even as individuals. Good? So I want to leave you with that. 20 minutes to the 10 o'clock hour. Do stay safe. As I promised some time ago, that I will always try to remember to leave you with Sparrow, at least for you know, the near future.
When does someone really become a good citizen? I'd like to know for sure. Why when the ordinary man... Why should they persecute a brother for seeking black power? Don't they know a blind man could see that this is blatant hypocrisy? The real traitors and them are all high in society. Yet the government protecting all of them and penalizing you and me. And in a million different ways they violate the law. It's the same good no good masters who oppress it all. They sell in black market, making excess profit, paying a starvation salary. These good citizens are the architects of economic slavery. They say you have the right to criticize, but then you are victimized, and without any reason. Many a time you find yourself politically paralyzed by that same good citizen. Yet these fakes and phonies enjoy a long life of luxury while they spread corruption throughout the country. When they should be arrested, they're protected and respected in this society. And in a million different ways, they violate the law. It's the same good no good bastards who oppress the poor. With a false declaration, tax evasion, defrauding customs duty. These good citizens are the architects of economic slavery. In lust and greed and fraud and strife, they specialize. Double deals, they idolize. If you're brave enough to open your mouth and criticize, one time you are ostracized and or victimized. Still they go unpunished and unaccused of any crime, while on the backs of the ordinary man these vultures climb. They use the riches and the power, make a mockery of the law, and have the law protect them same time. In a million different ways they violate the law. It's the same good no good bastards who oppress the poor. They controlling bootlegging, dope peddling, prostitution and piracy. These good citizens are the architects of economic slavery.